I'm Patrick Cappiello from Pearl Ash Restaurant. Today we're going to talk about hearty white wines for fall drinking. You know, during the fall, I think people often gravitate towards drinking heavier red wines. They move from the light, crisp white wines they were drinking in the summer and automatically assume that they can't drink white wine anymore, that they should only be drinking red wines and maybe even more dense and heavy reds. But I think in the fall, it makes more sense to have a white wine that would transition you into those red wines, a heartier white wine, a more full-bodied white wine. I think we have 4 good examples here of regions and producers and grape varietals that create wines in that same sort of style. There's northern Rhone Valley in France is the first area we want to talk about, and this is from a little area called Crozes Hermitage, and this producer Alain Graillot is a really great producer that makes not only great red wines but also great white wines. The wines in the Rhone Valley, and especially in the north here, you see made from 2 different grapes, Marsanne and Roussanne, and usually they blend the 2 grapes together in order to create the particular wine that they want to make for that year. But the style of this wine, it's very aromatic, it's very explosive, very floral, but on the palate, rich, full, and forward in style. It's really, for me, an awesome food wine, but also a great wine that just drinks well on its own, even if it's a little cool outside. So now we should look at California as well, and I think it's an area that people associate more with Chardonnay and buttery kind of wines that maybe are not the norm for what's happening now. I think there's a younger generation of winemakers that are experimenting with different grape varietals and in different areas and really making some exciting food-friendly wines. Jolie Lade is a pretty cool producer that is making a couple different white wines. They do Pinot Gris, which is this wine here. Pinot Gris is something that people, I think, often misunderstand. It is the same grape as Pinot Grigio, just like it sounds. But when Pinot Grigio is produced, it's made in a cooler climate, tends to be in the north in Italy. So with cooler climates, you have wines that are lighter and fresher. So even a grape varietal that can produce something that's light and crisp in a warmer climate, like Sonoma County, you have a wine that's a little richer, a little more full-bodied as well. This wine is pretty cool too. It has a little bit of extended skin contact on it. So because the grape has kind of a pink skin to it, there's a little bit of a pink rosy hue to it. So it's really beautiful wine to look at and delicious wine to drink. Definitely have to speak about hearty white wines from the Burgundy region in France. And here's where we see Chardonnay at its finest. Villages like Meursault and this producer Pierre-Yves Colomb-Moret. It's a great example of Chardonnay made in a rich style, a more full-bodied style, but also a wine that has acidity, so really balanced. It's a hearty white that for me resonates great with food as well. For me, with something like roast chicken and Meursault, it's a kind of a no-brainer. With Chardonnays from this area, you have wines that are also really age-worthy. So the cool thing about a wine like this is you can buy a few bottles and taste it over the course of a few years. Finally, I want to speak about wine from the Loire Valley in France. And now Loire Valley is another good example of kind of the dichotomy in white wine, or the 2 different sides in white wine. There are 2 grapes primarily grown in the Loire Valley. You have Sauvignon Blanc, which is grown in areas like Sancerre and Puy-Fumé, definitely light and crisp wines. But then in areas like Vouvray and in Savinier, you see Chenin Blanc being planted. Chenin Blanc creates more rich wines, more dense wines, more full-bodied wines. They tend to be a little bit more woolly, have more kind of animal traits as well, which really makes them great food companions. These wines also have a lot of minerality to them, which makes them really great with seafood. This for me is an oyster wine for sure, and I think it's sometimes kind of interesting that people think often of eating oysters in the summer, but it's not always the best season to eat them, and the winter is really the best time to eat oysters. So to have a hearty white wine like this with it, I think is a really great companion. So these are some good examples of heartier white wines that you might want to drink in the fall. I think it's important to experiment. Speak with your local sommeliers or wine merchants in order to explore some other heartier white wine options, but definitely don't overlook the opportunity to drink more full-bodied white wines. I'm Patrick Cappiello from Playboy.com.
And remove that entirely, and then we'll take the kind of the loin off in one piece like that, and then we'll take the belly off. So you have kind of 3 parts.
You can just see how juicy it is. It's
yeah.
Great. Thanks to the resting, I guess.
Exactly. And here's the loin, and then you see the loin is much leaner,
yeah.
but still juicy.
Yeah.